The 19th, 2021, and our guests today are coming to us from Great Britain. We're privileged to have Pam Reiki and Susan Purser-Hope, who's here from the Contemporary Glass Society of England. And they're going to tell us a little bit about their society and how they've survived the pandemic. So let me turn it over to Pam.
Thank you. It's great to see so many and faces that I recognise from years ago. And Linda, we've met on many occasions. I'm going to hand you over to Sue. Sue's going to start and then I'm going to join in as well. So thank you for inviting us.
Okay, so can you see? Everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to talk to you today and for this fantastic opportunity to introduce you to the Contemporary Glass Society and the current British glass scene. The Contemporary Glass Society will be celebrating its 25th anniversary in 2022, and we currently have just over 950 members. But our membership is quite different to the AACG, as it's made up predominantly of glass artists who chiefly come from the UK, although we're having an increasing number of international members joining. We also have a small number of collectors, suppliers and members of the general public who are interested in glass. But unlike in the States, the UK really only have a very small number of dedicated glass collectors. So I'm going to introduce her. So basically, Pam Reiki is the administrator and the genius driving force behind the society. And she's got many years experience in arts administration. This is me with my pre-lockdown hairstyle. And I'm a practicing glass artist and I'm the chair and project manager for Contemporary Glass Society. And at CGS, we are really passionate about contemporary glass. We're passionate about the makers. We're passionate about encouraging collectors and passionate about creating a market for future generations of glass artists. So how did it all start? I'm going to hand over to Pam now.
This is where I come in. Just a short background, a short history, really. In the 1950s, the glass movement in America was well on its way with Harvey Littleton, and it really got going. So you were at least 10 years ahead of us. In England, it was a much different setup. There were some glass schools, but it was all about design, and students were there to design work for the industry, and they never were allowed to get their hands on the glass. This all changed in 1966 when a very young American called Sam Herman, who was one of Harvey Littleton's students, came to England, and he revolutionized the English teaching system, really. He went to the Royal College of Art, Edinburgh College of Art and Stourbridge College of Art. These were the main glass teaching colleges at the time. And he told the students, you can build your own furnace, you can get your hands on liquid glass. And that revolutionized everything. From that, there was a small group of studios that started, and a group of them met in Covent Garden at the Crafts Council, and they formed British Artists in Glass, which was friendly name as BAG. One of those members was David Reiki, Peter Layton, but the driving force was John Cook, really. The British Artists in Glass were a professional organisation and run by volunteers, but they didn't allow amateurs in. They only allowed professional makers and students, and it was run on a voluntary system. But very soon they lost the momentum, really, because it was all volunteers, and it disbanded in the early 90s. So for about 5 years, nothing much happened in England, and it was the glass movement was really sort of upset that there wasn't somebody working behind them. and Peter Layton, Colin Reid, Tessa Clegg, another group of people, makers at the time, met in a pub in England. Everything happens in a pub in England. And they got together and they constituted the Contemporary Glass Society. And we haven't really looked back since then. But the first few years, again, it was run as a voluntary organisation. There wasn't a paid administrator, and it did struggle. And from having about 300, 400 members, it suddenly started to dwindle, and it went right down to about 180 members. But luckily, have you got the next slide, Sue? Luckily, we got Arts Council funding, and they advertised for a job of a fundraiser and administrator, two jobs actually. And at the time, I was running an arts centre in Norwich, and I saw these two jobs advertised, and I thought, oh, I'd quite like to get my hands on that. Maybe I'll do one of them. And then I looked, I thought, well, I could do both of them. So I applied, and very fortunate for me, they gave me both jobs and merged it into one. So that was in 2002. So and the mission statement, this was written really by the original group, and it's such a good statement that we've never changed it. We've really just carried on with this. It's what we believe in and what we're aware, what we're trying to achieve. We got Arts Council funding in 2012, in 2002, which really helped us for 10 years. And we really gave us the flexibility to do lots of things. But the Arts Council, in their wisdom, in 2012, changed everything and just took away the 50,000 that we had a year. So you can imagine, like, surviving a loss of that amount of money was really quite traumatic. But we reorganised, regrouped, and we really haven't looked back. We now are a self-financing organisation, and we employ a project manager, an editor for the magazine, somebody to run our website, and myself. And we have a great board of external people that look after us and work with us. And we really are a great team. We get on very well.
So what do we actively offer members? Well, from the very beginning, we've actually always had conferences, because they really are at the heart of the CGS presence, and it's where friendships are made and where sort of community spirit is enhanced. But we soon learned that venues and locations that we chose were really important to encourage members to travel. And to be honest, in this country, we have a very different attitude to traveling than you do in the States, because frankly, 100 miles to us seems like a big deal, and getting people to move more than 100 miles to go somewhere is quite an effort. So we choose really exciting venues. So they range from things like the Art Deco glory of the Deloire Pavilion in Bexhill-on-Sea, through to the M Shed, which is a big sort of industrial building as part of the Bristol docks. And in 2007, it was CGS's 10th birthday, and we celebrated with 10 events, which included our conference. And this one was actually at the Eden Project in Cornwall. And I don't know if any of you have actually come over and seen the Eden Project, but it is an extraordinary sort of ecosystem, sort of these geodesic domes, and it's an amazing place to actually come to. And what we do at conferences is we have a lot of speakers. We have both UK-based speakers, but also we really get a lot of international speakers from all over the world to come and talk to us. We also encourage members to take part and to have a huge input into it. And for instance, here we have people speaking at a Pechakucha. I always find that really difficult to say. We're now replacing it with chit chat. I can say chit chat, but then it was a Pechakucha. You can see what I mean. We also really are concerned about continuing sort of professional development. And so we're always looking at ways that we can encourage and help members to continue to learn. And this was at one of the conferences, this was Simon Bruntnell talking on how your work is never finished until you have photographed it well. And we all know the actual total importance of good photography and how difficult it is actually photographing glass and photographing it well. We also organise glassmakers question time so that we can actually transfer information and knowledge between ourselves. And here we've got Scott Chaseling and Paul Marioni, who were speaking at the International Festival of Glass in Stourbridge. Stourbridge was once the heart of the UK glass industry, and there's now basically a major heritage centre for glass, but there's really very few actual glass factories there now. And we also occasionally commission participatory work to really bring a fun element into the conference. And this is Richard Wheater's Burning Fat. I think there was a lot of energy expended on this, but I'm not sure how much fat was actually burnt. I have to confess. It was worth watching them. Pam, this is you.
Yeah, the other very important part of our work is education. We encourage our members to take workshops into schools and to teach the next generation to not be frightened of glass and handle glass. We launched the pilot, next one. Yeah, we launched a mentorship scheme where young emerging makers could work with established makers, and this was a great success, and people were incredibly grateful for this work. It took a lot to organise, so we don't do it every year. We've had a break for a while on doing this. In 2017, a long-standing member of CGS and our treasurer for many years, Amanda Moriarty, died, which was very sad. So we created the Amanda Moriarty Prize. And this has been very much, again, an opportunity for a maker to have a residency with another established glassmaker. So Callum Dawes has just won this year's one, and he'll be going to the James Devereux and Katie Husky's studio to work with them for a couple of weeks to perfect his illustration. He's a great illustrator, and I don't know if you can see here, he transfers illustrations onto blown work. Colin Reid has also given his studio for another maker, and we had Mark Angus in Germany giving his studio. He's a painter, which has been great. We've also worked for the new generation of makers. We had a prize at the New Designers for several years. This was sponsored by one of our trustees, Michael Barnes, and the Worshipful Company of Glass Sellers, which we're very grateful for. It was costing us £2,000 to have a table in this display, and we just thought this isn't the best use of our money. So we actually created the graduate review, and now we don't go to the actual event, but we still run a prize, and we print a magazine which has 20 graduates working, and that also gets printed into the Noise Glass magazine. We have a partnership with them. And so it's much better use of the £2,000. The winner that year was Harry Morgan, who's a real flyer, and look out for his work. He's doing very well. We also work a great deal with other educational establishments, and we try to nurture them, because probably the same in America, these courses are very threatened, and a lot of the arts courses are being discontinued. So it's really important that we fight and keep these organisations going. The National Glass Centre in Sunderland, Tim already talked about Sunderland. It's one of the major colleges now, and we do a lot of work with them. And then Northland's Creative Glass up in Scotland. I don't know if any of you remember Dan Klein. He was a great friend and a wonderful man, and he started this school with the MP that was up there way back. I think it's 96, something like that. And everybody we've had talking on our talks have said they went to a residency at Northlands and they were totally inspired. So it's a wonderful place up in the Highlands, well, beyond the Highlands of Scotland, almost where you fall off England into the North Sea. So if any of you get an opportunity, do come and do go to one of their conferences.
So we also spend a lot of time concentrating on exhibitions, and really one of the major things that members want are exhibitions to sell and show and to sell their work. So we basically provide two different types of exhibition. There are selected exhibitions in galleries that we have established really solid relationships with around the country. And so these are exhibitions that members will apply to. Their work will be juried, and a certain number will be actually accepted. There are also, though, open exhibitions, and these tend to be in public museums and art galleries. And these are exhibitions which are open literally to any member, which gives everyone the opportunity to actually get their work exhibited. And so we held the first of our selected exhibitions at the Devon Guild of Craftsmen in Bovey Tracy. And this basically was the exhibition setup. We've also show in London Glassblowers Gallery a lot, and Peter Layton, who is probably sort of one of the pinnacles of British glass, is really generous in the amount of opportunities he gives our members to exhibit their work. We showed at the Contemporary Applied Arts Gallery in London, and in 2010 we had Remarkable Glass, and Alison Kinnaird was one of the exhibitors there. And we also are continually trying to promote and encourage new and emerging artists. And so in 2010 we did Reflexivity exhibition, and that was in Cambridge. We also work with some quite interesting different venues. So, for instance, this is this was a collaboration we did with the National Trust, and this is Blackwell House, which is an arts and crafts house in the Lake District. And here a certain number of artists were given the opportunity to respond to the interior ethos of the house, and their work was displayed as part of the contents. And so this is a piece of work by Andrea Spencer. Pam?
Back to me. 2012, it's the Olympic Games in London. We all groaned in England, thought, oh no, but it was wonderful actually. We applied to the Arts Council, and for once they gave us some money, which was unusual. But with that money, we did fantastic things. So over the year, we had 70 events across the country, and we had over 220,000 audiences coming to our events. So it really was great. This is a commission. We got Bruce Marks to make our own baton, and this baton travelled around the country to all our different events. So it was really good fun.
We didn't run though, I must tell you, we didn't run between venues with it. It was packed up and sent.
When we were putting this exhibition, this talk together, I looked at this baton and said to Sue, I have no idea where it is. It sort of went around the country and I've lost track of it. So somewhere somebody has this piece. We organised our own exhibition in London. We hired a venue and we put on our own event. And this was it's called Glass Games. This is Louis Thompson's wonderful piece, and I'm really pleased to tell you that I own this one at the end. It's in my bathroom. I love it. And yeah, it was a great event. We got lots of new people coming to visit us and to see art, glass. So it was wonderful. I think we had 82 people. Oh no, this is the next one, the medallions. We had 24 artists in this one. This is the opening night. And yeah, you probably noticed that English glass is much smaller than American glass. I tried to explain to Sue how really enormous and colourful a lot of American glass is, and British glass is much smaller and more subtle. Our homes are much smaller, and we couldn't accommodate the size of glass that I saw Corrie in the talk somewhere. So Corrie, this is our type of exhibition compared to yours at Habitat. And this is a wonderful event. We created this, it's called the Medallions. And Sue actually managed to get these display cases built for us. And we invited all our members to make a glass medallion. But we would only sell them for £50. And it was incredible. David made one, David Reiki, and a lot of our top makers who would charge normally lots more money, but you were able to buy one. And in fact, I think Mark, who's here tonight, bought David. But it was such a success that everybody said to us, when are you going to do the next one? So we carried on. And the next one we did was a postcard show called Wish You Were Here. And everybody was invited to make a glass postcard. Again, it sold incredibly well. And we've been doing this now. Every time there's a festival, we have this event. And we have people queue. We won't let them sell until a certain time. And we have queues out of the door. And we've actually had people fighting, trying to get certain individual pieces. And this is sponsored, I must say, this is sponsored by Mark Holford, who's here tonight, and he's actually continued to sponsor us every year. So thank you, Mark, and also Alan, who's put up prizes for the shows. So we really appreciate your support. This is a typical medallion, and that was Sue's Wish You Were Here. Sue has a great sense of humour. And Cromer is a seaside town in Britain, and it's famous for its crabs.
But may I just stress that it's not a self-portrait. Although after lockdown and the amount of cakes I've been eating, it quite possibly will be. Okay, so in 2017, we celebrated 20 years with an ambitious programme of exhibitions called Glorious Glass. And these were shows which we literally had shows all over the country, not at the same time. We sort of basically took shows around the country. And each show was an open show, and they were specifically targeted at artists local to the venue that we went to. And so all these venues that we chose were basically public buildings. They were museums and art galleries usually. And by holding the exhibitions not in galleries, but in public buildings, it meant that we were able to encourage communities who would not normally see contemporary glass and would probably not even go into an art gallery, or a commercial gallery. It encouraged them to actually come in and look at the work and really to experience contemporary glass quite often for the first time ever. And they were also able to engage in various other things that were taking part. We ran workshops, we did talks, we did some tours around, meet the artists, and tours around the exhibitions. So there were lots and lots of places, ways that they could actually get really involved and understand the ethos and what was behind glass and the actual sort of making of it. And these ran for really up until the pandemic. We've had to temporarily halt them. We had one that was supposed to be up in Newcastle this year. We've had to postpone because of the pandemic, and hopefully sometime in the future. As the saying goes, one day my prince will come, but one day glorious glass will come back. So, and this was one of the places we showed up. This is, we again try and choose really interesting buildings. So this was Maidstone Museum and Art Gallery. And this was the exhibition, or one of the rooms of the exhibition. This was the Trades Hall in Glasgow. And if you ever get the opportunity to go to Glasgow, do try and go to the Trades Hall. It has the most extraordinary, really over the top, incredible interiors. It's an exquisite building. And this was the exhibition, which we did jointly with the Scottish Glass Society. This was Bucks County and the Roald Dahl Museum. They have, because Roald Dahl lived very close by, they have this incredible exhibition, a museum just really totally about Roald Dahl. And this again, this was the exhibition there. And these exhibitions run for about 2 or 3 months. So they are quite a sort of long-term venue. We also produce glass networks, and glass networks, from the very start of CGS, we have been producing a quarterly, really beautiful magazine. And that has changed slightly, and Pam will talk a little bit more about this later on, in the fact that we now are having 2 proper printed magazines, but we're now having 2 online digital magazines. And as I say, Pam will talk to you a bit about that, but they're fantastic magazines. They are truly one of the magazines that I actually do read from cover to cover, because they are just fascinating. They're fantastic. And so we'd like to introduce you to some of our members. This is a sort of A to Z of some members. Some of them you will know, but many of them I suspect you will not know. So this is a new introduction to you. So this is Katharine Schilling, and she combines both kiln formed glass and hot glass to produce tactile, tangible and enduring pieces that explore the sculptural quality of glass. Alison Allam casts glass sculptures to comment on contemporary feminine themes, and she's well known. She does this extraordinary range of amazing shoes, which are just mind-boggling. If you like shoes, you will love Alison's work, I can tell you. Jenny Ayrton is influenced by her love of the sea and a childhood spent messing about on boats. She cases delicate wire elements within both sandcasts and blown objects. Philippa Beveridge is concerned about time and memory, and she juxtaposes and repeats forms which then reflect these concepts.
Lynn Brigham, I can never get her name right. I'm sorry about that. She works on scientific pieces, looking at the cells and microscopic makeup, and does really beautiful work. Heike Brashlow is one of our well-known makers. Maybe some of you have got a piece of her work. She shows quite a lot in America. Recently, I'm not sure if it's this piece or a piece very similar, was bought by the V&A in London. So she's a well-known maker in England. She also teaches at the Royal College of Art. Sarah Brown does really interesting illustration work. She's a fantastic drawer, and these get turned into wonderful pieces of architectural glass.
Effie Burns. Effie casts quite ordinary things like broccoli and other natural matter to create these really extraordinary cast glass landscapes when you look at them and you don't realize actually what you're looking at. And so things aren't always what they seem. Penny Carter is a bead worker, and she peels through glass layers to create edible fruit-like seeds, so chili pepper and pomegranate, kiwi and prickly pear, spiky gooseberry or peppery damson. And Katharine Coleman, again, is one of our really well-known makers. she engraves on clear lead crystal forms, which have been overlaid with a thin layer of coloured glass, which are blown to her design. And then once blown, she basically the top surface of the glass is cut away and polished, which makes it sound like it's a really simple technique, but I mean, her work is just extraordinary. And she was awarded an MBE for services to glass engraving in 2009.
Susan, can you go back? There was a question about the piece that looked like feathers.
Ah, yeah, that's
Philippa Beveridge.
yeah, Philippa Beveridge.
And they wanted to know if this was cast or blown.
It's cast.
This car.
Thank you.
Pat DeVere.
Sorry,
Thank you.
we'll get there in the end. Yeah, they're cast. Exquisite, aren't they? Her work is really, really beautiful. Okay for me to go on? Yeah?
Yeah, all of that.
Just flip through back to where we got to. Oh.
This is it.
Sorry.
This is Ian Chadwick, again, one of our rising stars. He does absolutely amazing work in kilns. How he's got the patience for the cutting and putting this together is beyond us, but it's absolutely beautiful work. He's also doing quite a bit of teaching, I think, in America. So, well, he was before the pandemic, so he was coming over there. This is Keith Cummings, who's the godfather or grandfather, whatever you'd like to call it, of cast glass. He actually taught David, my husband, David Reiki. He's been a pioneer at kiln forming and cast glass, and has written many books which people use as reference. He's quite a shy man, and he doesn't travel. It's almost impossible for us to get him to come to one of our conferences in England, so he'd never come to America. But he's just got so much knowledge. And this is Chris Day, again, one of our young, well, he's not so young. I think he's about 40, but he's a student. He went to the Wolverhampton University. He's one of our only black glass blowers in the UK. And his work is has very strong messages about being a mixed race person and how he feels in the UK, and also about the history of slavery and the background behind his ancestry, really.
Carrie Fertig. Carrie's an interdisciplinary artist. Otherwise, she works among a lot of different sort of techniques, and she does a lot of performance and installation work, and she creates also these really beautiful pieces in lamp work. Beth Gates. Beth is, again, a very recent graduate, and her work is inspired by the colours and environments around her, and she tries to manipulate sort of standard shapes into quite interesting different sort of forms. Hannah Gibson. Hannah is really interesting because she recycles glass wastes from other glass artists. So she actually basically gets people to she either goes and picks up, or she gets people to send her bits of glass that they've finished with, and then she essentially casts these figures from them, and she essentially leaves these figures around the world. So quite often she will find that people will pick them up, and so you get this kind of continuing dialogue she has with people who have found them or have taken them and put them in different places. So these are little figures who are international travelers. Not at the moment, though, but they have been and will be again in the future.
Gilles Jones is a double act. They have a wonderful studio in the heart of North Yorkshire, and the North Yorkshire Downs in UK are really beautiful. It's a beautiful area, and so their work is inspired by their landscape. as you can probably see in this, the field structures and the layout. Very beautiful work they do together. Joseph Harrington is a very interesting young man. He casts from ice. So he gets huge blocks of ice that he will then treat with salt. So they begin to melt, the ice begins to melt, and you get these crevices and distortion. And then he will cast it in plaster. And I don't know if there's many casters here, there's a few of you. You know that when you mix a bucket of plaster, it gets warm, it gets hot. So then he's racing against time to cast the ice before it completely melts and to get a shape that he can work on. So, but then once it comes out of the mold, he then hand polishes it and hand finishes it. So there's a lot of work after it comes out of the mold, which I didn't appreciate until he gave us the talk, but really interesting work. And he's won prizes at our Glass Biennale, the last Glass Biennale. He also teaches, but he's given up his teaching to become a full-time maker. So do support him if you see his work coming over to the States. He's really worthwhile supporting. Jonathan Harris is one of our more traditional makers. He works in Graal work and cameo. They're absolutely beautiful pieces. You can't really appreciate, I mean, it looks good here, but when you actually handle a piece of his glass, you can appreciate it even more, the amount of work that's gone into it.
Laura Hart. Laura has a passion to artistically represent some of the most fundamentally threatened organisms on the earth, and she creates these truly extraordinary, well, she's done a huge number of orchids, which are just exquisite, but also other forms. But I chose this one because I love her orchids. I think they're just so beautiful. Oriel Hicks. Oriel lives on the Isles of Scilly, which I know we live on a comparatively small island, but Scilly is really small, and it's quite fascinating because it's a very small enclosed community, and she's very much inspired by the beauty of the islands and also by the clarity of light that you get there. Lisa Pettibone. Lisa investigates areas where man and nature intersect, and her recent work reflects a growing interest in astronomy and physics. And in fact, she's going to be giving us a talk in a couple of weeks, which sounds like it's going to be absolutely fascinating because she's going to be talking very much about astronomy.
Angela Jarman, again, is one of our top makers in the UK. She's a caster, and she specialises in core casting. You can't quite appreciate that in this piece, but these are really beautiful. Again, much better in the real flesh. And I think this piece is probably about 18 inches high. So it's really, looks small, but it's not. It's a really big piece. June Kingsbury, again, she does wonderful pieces that are inspired by nature. She often uses found objects and build. They're quite fine art, really. Her piece is quite sculptural. And Alison Kinnaird is again one of our well-established makers. She also has an MBE. I don't know why the engravers get MBEs and the blowers and the casters don't. We need to investigate, I think. It's not fair. But she's, again, very inspirational engraver, does some fantastic work. She's also a fantastic musician. She plays the harp, and we often get treated to a recital if she's at an exhibition or a conference. And she really is quite an amazing woman.
Arabella Marshall. Arabella, she makes pieces that form an integral part of environments. And this is a really recent work. It's really large, and it's located in the Ban Chapel in the midst of the Suffolk marshes. And she had to do an awful lot of applications, etc., to be able to get permission to be able to actually install this. And you can only get to it by walking to it. You can't drive to it. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. So it's really open and exposed to the elements. James Maskrey, he works with hot glass, and his mastery of the material and techniques allow the glass to take on the visual qualities of porcelain, liquid, and even printed photographs and texts. And he's done some fascinating work around sort of Shackleton and exploration to the Antarctic, and also Darwin on his travels. Now, this is one of the world's greatest glass artists. This is me. And as you can tell, I love colour. And so I work with fused glass, and I just really love this amazing, the amazing use, way that colour and light worked together on this. This was in a hospice. It was a memory blanket based around Native American Indians, sort of dream catchers, and it captures memories of some of the residents in the hospice.
Opal Seabrook is one of our younger members. She's also a barber. She cuts men's hair, but not in your normal way. She's very, very creative, and she enters competitions and wins all sorts of things. But she loves pop art, and she makes these. They look quite simple, but there's incredible technique behind these pieces, and she will use the found object in amongst them as well. So a great artist. Andrea Spencer, we saw her work earlier at Blackwell Art House. She often works with, as well as this sort of leaded work, she works with lamp work and creates very delicate pieces, very beautiful. But she said she's got to perfect it because I don't think it travels very well. So it's one of her problems that she needs to perfect. Nancy Sutcliffe, again, is a great engraver. We're very pleased that we're still nurturing the engraving technique, because there was a great danger that it might die out. And Nancy's a very, very modern, very different aspects to engraving. Often she gilds just a tiny bit of like a headdress or something like that in gold, and they're really fascinating. In fact, I got one for David for his Christmas present. So that's what David's Christmas present was, a Nancy Sutcliffe piece.
Roberta Mason. Roberta does a lot of underwater sort of scuba diving and sort of maritime exploration. And she uses the language of bubbles and the amazing world of strange and wonderful marine creatures that she encounters when she's under the water to inspire her glasswork. Yoshika Okada, her work explores her Japanese background and her current English situation. And she looks at the synergy and the paradoxes that these different influences create. Jacques Pavlovsky, her work reflects her eclectic interest in culture, architecture, the human form, textiles, and nature. Never heard of him.
I don't know who this is.
It's you. I left you with all the Riki dynasty.
The Riki dynasty, here they come. I'm sure a lot of you know David. He has this eclectic sense of humour, but he's also always got a hidden meaning behind it. He worries about architects and what they design for people to live in, and this was his take on it's called The Architects. So he's worried. He's worried about what they're building. And this is my daughter, our daughter. She came to Dave's studio to help him. Because he was getting old and tired, but then she said, can I take some wax home? Can I start working on it? And so now she's really established herself as her own maker. So look out for more Agriki. She specialises in childlike creatures, and she's a mother of 3 and has quite a stressful time. So quite often they're quite anxious mice that she models. This is Bruno Romanelli, again, one of our star makers. He does wonderful things with cast glass and colour. Quite often we look at his work, even us who are makers, we look at it and we say, how did he do that? And so again, I'm not sure, I think he does sell in America at some of the galleries, so do look out for him. And Anthony Scala, again, one of our stars. Anthony does exquisite things with a piece of glass. He will blow a piece of glass and then he will cut it into shapes and polish it and work on it and then fit it back together again so you can't see the joins. I mean, they really are truly amazing. And we know that David Attenborough has bought one. David Attenborough, the great naturalist, is that the right word? He has a wonderful glass collection. We know that, and anyway, he does have at least 1, maybe 2 of Anthony's work.
Pippa Stacey. Pippa's work is inspired by nature, and she does a lot around feathers, and she specialises in ver eglemise, and she does a lot of teaching around the application of precious metals. Morgan Stockton, again, is a recent graduate, and she uses steel and glass to create contemporary one-off sculptures, which are inspired by her Birmingham industrial heritage. She comes from Birmingham, she still lives there, and the amazing sort of industrial heritage of that. And I was born in Birmingham, great place. Franz Wesselmann. Franz, people are central to his work, and he does these extraordinary pieces of stained glass, and his work often tells a story, and it's beautiful because you can just sit there and look at his work and actually make up your own stories based around it. And finally, Cheryl Wilson Smith. Cheryl explores the passage of time and her sense of insignificance in the vast world around us, which is perhaps not the most joyful note to end on, but perhaps is quite appropriate in the fact that we're all feeling a bit insignificant at the moment in comparison to what is happening in the world around us. So we have come a long way from Sam Herman in 1966, and working together, we're going so much farther into the future. So during the pandemic, we realized that apart from the fear of catching COVID, one of the major things that people lose with lockdown and social distancing is human contact. We knew.
Oh, so we lost you. Oh dear. That's a shame. Are you coming? I'm not sure if she's coming back.
Better dive in and help her, Pam.
Yeah, I'll dive in and help her. So we decided we needed to engage with our makers. She's got this slideshow actually. So, this is almost the finish. This is the one slide from last. But then I will take over. We decided we needed to engage with our community, and we started a weekly talk. Sue and I, when we first started this, we thought maybe it's going to last about 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. Anyway, here we are. I think we're on our 50th now, and they've been so well received. We keep programming them in every week, and they're all very different. And in fact, last week's one, which Peter was talking about, we have somebody who works with children from war zones, And he's done that for 35 years. And he had a massive nervous breakdown about 5 years ago. And his daughter got him to go to a stained glass course. And glass, he says, has saved his life because he's actually built his own little studio now. And when he's going through a very dark time, he will actually go and make some glass. And so that's just an example of one of our talks. But they're all on our website, but they're only for our members at the moment. So we will talk about that when we come to the end of the presentation. This is I just wanted to give you a quick tour of our new website because we're very proud of it. We tried to make it as beautiful as possible, have lots of glass images on it, and very easy to navigate and user-friendly. So John, are you okay if I just do a quick tour of this? Are we all right for time? John?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, okay. So you can find a member in the Find a Glass Artist, and you can scroll down by name or by technique, and you can find people. So a technique, if we look for casting, you'll find lots of casters. So this will give you a good idea of what's happening in British glass at the moment. There's quite a few there. I'm not going to go through it all because I want you to play and find your own way round. I'll come back to exhibitions in a minute. The magazine, this is the magazine that Sue talked about. So rather than print 4 magazines a year, and it wasn't the printing that was costing us the money, it was the postage. We were finding it was costing us £1,500 to post each edition. So we just couldn't afford it. So now we've created a news and a story and a magazine on the website, and it's full of really useful information that people, and it's ongoing. We just keep adding to it weekly. So there's lots of information there that people can find and read about. And we share lots of other people's information on that site as well. We have a notice board where we tell people what's going on. And again, you know, we're quite happy to share information that you want to tell us about in these categories. Resources is mainly for artists, but we have a whole section of where they can hire equipment, find things, photographers. It's full of it, and again, we're updating it regularly. About is about our organisation, who we are. This is our team. So there's quite a young mixed team. Colin's just joined us and he's been a great addition. And we've got a short history of what we've been doing over the last 10 years. Coming back to exhibitions, we have online exhibitions all the time. And we're a very sharing organisation. We thought, why not ask other people to join us? So we just put a call out across the world to anybody who wanted to send a piece of work for this exhibition. And this is our Hands Across the World. You can scroll down. Again, I won't go into it entirely, but you can see the whole show. It's taking a bit longer to load. I think everybody's on their internet tonight. This gives you an overview of all the pieces that are in the show. There's 24 countries, I think, or 24 artists from 17 countries. And so it's really giving you a taster of what's going on in other countries. Czech Republic, very cut and polished, as you'd expect, but some of the pieces are really quite beautiful and quite different from Japan, from Israel. And as well as these current exhibitions, we also keep our old ones because some of them are so memorable, we don't want them to disappear. So again, if you've got time and you want to play, you can just have a look at past exhibitions that are on there. And I think we've got about 10 years worth there, so quite a lot to look at. coming back, we have a support and donate button that people can give us money, and we have found over the pandemic, we've just asked people to contribute, what they can really to help us, and that's been fantastic. It's helped pay for the website, and now we're raising money for our 25th anniversary next year. And we encourage you all to become a member. Do think about joining CGS, because we're a very friendly bunch, and we look after you and we talk to you, and you can join us for our weekly talks. And if you become a member in resources, you can also, this is only seeable when you become a member. It's a members area, but in this area, we have our videos. So these are all our talks from the past year. As you can see, a lot of them. And they're very informative and quite friendly and relaxed. And you have access to all of that. So it's quite a good thing to be part of. And I think that, I don't know if Sue managed to rejoin us.
Back, sorry, yes, I'm sorry. I have a very temperamental, temperamental internet connection, I have to be honest. I was waffling away and suddenly I realized I was talking only to myself.
Oh no. So I will stop sharing, and that where am I? Stop sharing. No, cancel.
Well, yeah, and if I can just say that one of the things that's been really apparent during the pandemic is a sense of community and collaboration within the glass world. And so we both really look forward to looking at opportunities for us to actually forge links between our organisations and maybe create an ongoing conversation about contemporary glass. So we'd be delighted if any of you would like to join. But what we would be really happy to do if it was of interest is that we would invite you or to one of an occasional lecture, which we think might be of specific interest to you, and also invite you to the official online opening party for each of our upcoming sessions of online exhibitions, because every exhibition that we're doing at the moment are selling exhibitions, and for everyone we have an open evening where we all sit in our separate rooms with a drink and a nibble, waving and talking to each other, and then we actually do a walk round, virtual walk round the whole exhibition so that we can see actually what's there. And it's the nearest we can get to those wonderful evenings of sitting and chatting and having a drink and just meeting up with each other. So we would be delighted to forward you information if it's of interest, so that you can actually join us as well. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Pam. There was one question that hadn't been answered concerning the pandemic hands around the world. Is the show juried, or was it a?
No, that was an open show. We let people just join it.
Very good.
Some of our shows are juried online, and some are not.
Are there any other questions? If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Larry Seabrook, the president of the AACG, and I want to thank you for your presentation and reaching out, and I look forward to exploring collaborative events in the future, both online and in person. Pam, I've had the pleasure to meet your husband several times, and it's a pleasure meeting you today. And Susan, thank you for your presentation.
It's good to meet you all. It really is.
Yeah.
It was great to learn about you and your organization. Thank you.
Yeah. We're quite different. Somebody was asking about GAS. I mean, GAS is such a massive organization, and it's very much, in a way, a hot glass. It's about, there's a lot of blowers. You have a lot of hot glass in America. We don't have so much. We've got a few studios, but not the same. We have a lot of casters, I mean, when I was talking about BAG, when it first got going in the 1970s, David was the only caster. There were no casters. But now today, there's a lot really in England. And our work is much smaller and different, really.
A lot of great stained glass, like David Hockney's window, the Queen's window.
Yeah.
You know, they got a lot of great stained glass there.
We
Stained
do. We
glass.
have a lot.
Yeah.
We do have a lot. Yeah, it's a good tradition, really, here.
Yeah.
Other thing I found impressive is you have such a large number of female artists that are quite accomplished.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I think actually, I'm not sure whether the majority of our members are female, but there's certainly it's a majority who turn up, who come to things or who sort of get involved tend to be women. I mean, what is the breakdown, Pam? Are there more women than?
I think there are. Yeah, I'm sure there are. I don't know. I haven't got the breakdown, but we don't actually ask. We don't ask, are you female now? So I don't have a button I can tick. Find out.
Now you're quite frightened what to ask nowadays, aren't you?
It's too hard to ask. Yes.
I also found your website very appealing. Looks like it's
good.
Lots of beautiful work that comes up.
Excellent.
May I say, I cannot tell you how many months poor Pam spent organising and working on that. I used to get these very frustrated phone calls, trying to sort it out, and it is beautiful. It is really beautiful and so easy to navigate. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it looked easy.
It's hard when you're working with a web designer. They don't have the same understanding of what you're trying to get at, and even now we're still not happy entirely with the exhibition page because we wanted that to be bigger and bolder and more wow, but they just couldn't work out how to do it. So we're still working on that one as well.
Well, I think it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment? One piece of information. The lectures take place at 2:30 Eastern time, so 7:30 in the UK, so in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because that was where we got to, that's where I got cut off, I was just about to talk about our lectures, and I got...
The other thing I was going to comment on was I think engraving is more common in the UK than it is in America. And Katharine Coleman is working very hard to bring together a European group of lectures. And I think she's given a lecture, hasn't she, which she talks about her European group. It's on the list of lectures.
Yeah.
It's if you're interested in engraving, it's well worth watching because she's really very well connected throughout Europe and runs I was about to say a mobile exhibition, but the first one was called Gravure on Tour, and then what was the second one called? That's just closed. Something else on tour, or on tour again, or something. I think it was.
Yeah.
Well,
I have a question, if I could.
Call the meeting.
Sorry, that's something we're very keen to keep promoting. Is all the techniques. I mean, it's so hard when a lot of the colleges have gone, and those traditional glass blowers. I mean, we used to know some of the glass blowers in Stourbridge that were absolutely. This is in industry. They were absolutely amazing people, what they could achieve, and it's so hard to keep that tradition going because it's taken them a lifetime to learn their skill. And I mean, we know Dante. We love Dante. Dante loves Northlands, by the way. Dante Marioni. He comes up to Northlands. He loves it. But it's those skills that is really, really important to keep going. And then you've got new skills like Tim has. Tim has these wonderful new skills with your videos and your light shows. Fantastic.
I learned it all in England when I was there.
Did you?
Yeah. And where do the pairs come from? Is there a special meaning for that?
He likes the conversation. He likes the interaction between two people. I mean, he's where I showed you the architect. If he had one architect, it wouldn't be the same as that architect saying to the other one, no, you know, it's not good enough. So he does pairs because he likes to have that interaction between people.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Bonnie has a wonderful piece, don't you, Bonnie? I think, of David's. Oh, maybe I've got the wrong Bonnie. Maybe not. Sorry.
But you could have a wonderful piece of it.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank Pam and Susan for their presentation. And we'll look forward to seeing you someday when we can travel.
We
Yeah.
hope so. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.